So I know, Kim, that you've worked with digital imagery and reproduction and integrated a lot of different materials in your work. So maybe this would be a great place to talk about how you incorporate and integrate
Sure.
these different platforms.
Sure. I just call it mixed media because that's actually what it is.
Oh.
And these are, sorry about the rooster. Oh, these are images, the cloth images here were scanned images of cloth and then blown up in my Photoshop program, and then printed out. So they're printed on paper. These particular ones are paper printed. So and then I put them on, glue them on canvas. We're working on canvas. This particular piece is two old canvases. I like to use my old canvases. I like to rework anything that I'm not totally happy with, and I was not happy with these two canvases. So put them together, bolted the two together, and then I just went at it. So this is paper, two pieces of paper. You can see the two different colors, or the two different colors of the fabric, the black and white and the tan and white. And so I have to have a barrier before I go, and the rest of this is then oil. And I work almost exclusively in R&F oil sticks. The big ones, I like the big ones, but I also like the small ones too. So I call it my paintings, but in a sense I'm doing a lot of drawing. But the barrier is, I've used a couple of different things. Sometimes it's a golden GAC 100, GIC 100, and then a medium on top of that. That's to make the paper, I can put the oil on top of that. I've also used, I'll talk about that when I go to this metal, but, so it's a GAC 100, and maybe I will use either a satin medium on top of that, and then I can put my oils anywhere I want. Clearly on the canvas is no problem, but I can also put it right on top of the collaged paper in this instance.
So your two canvases,
yes,
that are hinged in the back,
they're bolted.
Yes, bolted.
They are.
So I could imagine that this might be the source of stress for your surface with the paper, with movement at some point in time. So what have your thoughts been about that possibility in terms of conservation? If you have problems with movement in the paper, and that stress. I mean, that's a stress area.
It is a stressor. Yes, I know. And as a matter of fact, as bolted as they are, there's still a bit of a bend in there. So I think I'm just hoping. That's all I can say. Just hoping. This is not. That's not the way. As I think the next piece I'm going to do, I think, well, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to do one big canvas, so it's not my favorite way of working. But I wanted very much to use these particular two canvases underneath there. So this is going to be a little bit of a delicate piece.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I understand in terms of your structure and this symmetry coming together with the triangles, but in terms of the future life of the work, would you consider, in terms of conservation, that the canvas be removed carefully from the stretcher bar and mounted, like on one one large panel, for instance, or something?
That's a great idea.
I'm thinking about, like, with Renaissance panels, which often were multiple pieces of wood together that were joined, and that there's warping and separation different from the different woods, and that causes problems. Sometimes you want to be able to remove your actual image, your surface. Sure.
I think it's a great idea.
So you wouldn't be adverse to that being done for conservation?
Not at all. Not at all. I think it's a wonderful idea.
So that might be worth leaving in notes, with the work itself.
That I would be open to doing that.
That might be a possibility. If you see that there's a stress on the paper, and something happening before it deteriorates, that the entire thing be carefully restretched, lined and restretched.
Great idea.
Yeah. Because that's one thing that sort of like pops up in
Pops
my
out
mind
in your
as
mind.
a
Sure.
red flag
Makes a
in
lot of
terms
sense.
of the life of the painting, because it's a gorgeous painting.
Yeah. Thank you.
You want that to, So while we're right
corner.
here, would you like to
Sure.
kind of talk about these really different works here
Yeah.
that are transitioning into
wanna
metal?
turn-
I'm going to I'm going to turn the
Turn
camera
whichever
over
one.
here. All right, yeah.
Can you see these?
Yeah,
Should I talk about this one?
yeah,
For
let's just
example?
talk about the very fact that all of a sudden we have these
These 3D
three-dimensional
things, yes,
explosions here.
So this is metal, and it's powder coated. It's been powder coated. Well, obviously it was constructed and welded. They've been welded together. These pieces, they've been welded together, and the little thingies have been welded on, and then my squigglies have been there. So it's all welded, and then powder coated. So the whole thing was this blue, which I love to work on top of. And then I'm working in oils. I'm working in oil paint. So again, here I am with the barrier issue. What am I going to do? How am I going to keep the oils from slipping off? So I've got a Liquitex clear gesso, which is wonderful when I figured it out that I could do it, because it's so clear. The Liquitex is so wonderful that I can put it on in certain areas, and then if I decide not to cover that area with my oils, it doesn't make a difference because it's clear, and you get the in this case the blue peeking through. But this again is just my oil, same as what's happening in the painting. This is just the oils, and almost exclusively, and I shouldn't say totally because I do get out a brush and fiddle around a little bit, but oil sticks. And I really love the R&F oil sticks. And Sennelier, I also enjoy Sennelier.
And again, do you have any kind of a varnish over the surface? Do you have any fixative or varnish on any of
I
these?
don't. And I do have another one over here that I have put some varnish on, and I'm not sure I like it. There is something that's working well for me with the high gloss of the powder coat, and then of course the oil paints have different levels of gloss. You'll get some more glossy and some less glossy, but mostly they're kind of a matte. Generally they dry much more matte than of course the powder coating, and I'm liking that difference in there.
Do you have records of your correspondence with the man who's working on the metal for you and manufacturing and welding, with information about his materials and what he's using, so that can go along with the works?
Yeah, I know who it is. I have an assistant who's my welding and metal assistant, and I think it's a cold rolled steel. I think it's a cold rolled steel. And so the patterns go one place to get cut, and then we do the welding actually. I'm right out here in my little welding area, and I'm the human clamp. So I'm all decked out, and I'm holding it and telling him here, and then I put my shield down and he welds it up.
Yeah.
So
right, okay.
yeah.
So it's good to have just a record of anyone who worked on projects with you, because they're there as a resource to help somebody. If anything needs restoration, they can go to them first, or if they can't do it, then they can give information about exactly how they proceeded and what they were using with welding and with any other materials that they're using.
Another great suggestion, Jan. Great suggestion. And he's younger than I am, which is nice.
Yes.
It's great to have assistants that are younger. So this one, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the oil paint on top of the powder coating.
you have a piece over here that I'd really like to just kind of, let's see if we can get over here and just come in on this, because you're so innovative with your use of technology and with printing. So could you talk about this one element here?
This right here.
Mhm.
So this has been a 3D printed. I call her a Venus. This is 3D printed. This, of course, this part is just a regular, traditionally welded steel. And what was of interest to me was that I used scanned in pieces of my paintings that then we were able to wrap around digitally wrap around this shape in the computer, and then the piece was 3D printed out. So so this part right here actually comes from a painting of mine. This is an edition that was in a computer line. But that whole thing is 3D printed, and it sounds kind of plasticky, as it does. It's sort of got a plastic feel, but it comes out of the printer with that surface decoration on it.
So do you know whether or not there's any kind of a spray fixative acrylic something over the surface once it's been printed to protect that ink that's been put on there?
There's this one didn't get it. There's a spray that's put on these pieces, and I don't do the printing. I don't have a printer. They're very big and expensive printers. But there is a spray that's put on it that really helps cure the plastic print. I shouldn't say the word plastic, but it has that feel to it, that cures it. And then I have some other pieces, and in order to keep the color, this one's faded a little bit, but to keep the color that we can get, which is pretty amazing to get the various colors, I will take it and have it sprayed with I think is it a urethane spray?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really important issue, because inks do fade, and sadly.
Yes, sadly.
And if you can get a UV coating on it, I
Yes.
suppose that might
Make
help.
a difference.
Yeah.
Well, things are changing in the 3D printed world so quickly, which is good news.
Mhm.
Which is good news.
That's
They're
terrific.
getting much. The colors are much more dramatic than they were when I was first doing this. This one was quite a few years ago.
So when you're printing out scans of your own paintings, could you talk a little bit about the printer, the inks, the paint, the papers, the actual printing, because those are all elements that are going into your works.
That's right. So I have a 9600 printer, 9600 Epson printer. It's a great big one. It's in the other room. It's a big one. And I can print on an Epson paper. That's the paper that works the best with the Epson inks. It's actually inks. I'm using an ink. But I can also do it on canvas, and I can also do some printing on canvas. So that, I think if we were to talk about what's most common for me to do in terms of my paint work, whether it's canvas or paper, is I print something out as an initial underpainting. That's how I think of it. Whether it's my printing it out on canvas, or whether I'm printing it out on paper, and then in all instances, I'm going on top of the canvas, or the printed canvas, or the printed paper with my traditional handwork. So so that's kind of something that just always, and the breakthrough for me was, oh, thank God, I never have to go to a blank canvas ever again.